Hello and welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast looking for a joyride, just looking for a good time tonight. I am your host, Samantha, and with me are my co-hosts.
I'm Brett.
I'm Mel.
And today we are going to discuss what I've been saying is the movie I'm most scared to watch, The Ring.
Yes, you finally climbed your own personal horror Everest.
I did.
How do you feel?
Do you want to know now or do you want to know later?
It's your show. You're the host.
It's my show. I'm the host.
There's been a coup.
I feel good.
I've been Joe Biden.
I feel good. And we're going to get into it. But I feel good. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we do next? I don't normally start.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, so it's The Ring. It's the American remake.
This is not Ringu.
Yes, this is The Ring, Gore Verbinski's 2002 The Ring. And I guess we can start with our history with it real quick.
Yeah, that's how we
Sam's
normally
history-
start.
Yeah, but it often is, I find.
I can start this
Yes.
time. I saw this in theaters, so I would have been like 12. And it did freak me out. I've mentioned before on this podcast, I would just like sleep in front of the TV every single night for my entire childhood. And it was in front of like a projector and it would just like turn blue. And so it wasn't quite static, but it definitely was like off-put. There was like a week there where I was not comfortable in front of the TV. And I think there are some scenes from it that sort of stuck with me more. Funny enough, this is not the most traumatizing Gore Verbinski movie from my childhood. That would have been Mousetrap.
Oh, I saw Mousetrap.
There's a scene in that where
So violent, actually.
Well, what it was is there's a scene where he like bites into like a sandwich or a burger and there's like a cockroach in it. And like for me, I couldn't handle that as a child.
I thought you loved sandwiches with cockroaches in them.
Only from Aquaman
Okay.
2, not from Mousetrap.
Okay.
But this one also scared me as a child, but I've watched it a lot over the years. I wouldn't call it a comfort movie for me. I've probably watched Ringu as many times as this one, and my kind of hot take is I think this is better. I think this is better than Ringu, but not because Ringu is bad.
Sure.
Brett?
Yeah, I saw this maybe like the year, I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it at a sleepover.
Oh.
When I was 12, which is like, I think 2 friends. So I'd never been to the house before, but like since it starts with like friends having a sleepover,
School children.
yes, I was already, and I was just like a very heavily supervised child, so this was like pretty extreme for me. Even
This would have been like
12.
a year or so after it came out.
Yes, and then we finished watching it, and I didn't sleep. Like I slept in like a separate room. I slept in the guest room, which had a circular mirror on the wall.
Beautiful.
And a TV on the like mantle, and there was a fly in the room.
Perfect.
Which are all images from like the cursed videotape. And I really didn't sleep at all. I was so freaked out and just like, because it was the perfect like nightmare situation for having just seen that movie. And this kind of is a comfort movie for me. I've seen it a bunch. I own it on DVD.
It's weirdly cozy.
It is cozy. And honestly, my estimation of it grows, I think, with each watch.
I agree.
I just really, really kind of love this movie. I have not seen the Japanese original, but I have read the novel that it was based on, and it's bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they fixed it for the adaptations, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't really like the novel. It's just like, instead of just a curse, she's a grown woman psychic who is intersex and gets raped by a guy, and that's how she contracts smallpox.
Oh.
And her psychic abilities fuse with the smallpox virus, and that's like a psychic virus that then goes on to infect people. Yeah. That's the plot.
Well, my first time seeing it was this month, September of 2024.
So you never even watched it when you were younger?
I never watched it. It was one of the movies.
experienced it on the bus.
Correct. It was one of the movies that was told to me when I was probably 12 or 13. And like, I'm sure whoever was telling me like really elaborated on things. Like I was convinced you would see rings everywhere. And after she told it to me, like, I go to my home and I have a TV in my bedroom and it's going shh. So I'm just scared shitless because I have an active imagination and it's built up over the decades. And I was convinced this would be the scariest movie I'd ever see. And it's not even the scariest movie I saw this year. And it's actually a really good movie. And I guess I'm happy I finally got to it. But I'm like, I should have watched it such a long time ago because it's really good. And this week, my first time watching it because I was really scared. I was home. There was the end of my margarita thing. So I got wasted while watching the movie because I kept waiting to be scared shitless. And I wasn't. But I did end up lying on the floor watching the end of it. So I decided to rewatch the movie again. So I watched it again last night. And even better. So thank y'all for picking it.
And
I finally watched it.
Yeah, Brett and I kind of knew that it was going to be, the power it had over you was going to be dispelled when you watched it. Because while it is a good movie and it is scary in some ways, I mean, this is sort of like, not the first, but maybe the most powerful, like, creepy little girl with the long hair sort of movie. Like, it's so visually striking, and we'll talk a lot about that.
Hell yeah.
It's not particularly the scariest movie, as you said, that we've even covered on this podcast. Like, it's very effective, but it is funny because, like, as you said, at the beginning of the movie, one of the girls is telling the other girl, "Oh, there's this video," and it's like this, like how you experienced it.
Basically how it happened.
It's like an urban legend.
But I made a copy and made someone watch it, so that's why I'm here today, just hearing the story. I made a copy of my friend telling me the story.
All right, well, we'll check back in with you in a week and see if you're still
I know my
with
week's
us.
not up.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie for the first time, so we'll see.
Have you guys seen the shitty sequels to this?
I have seen The Ring 2.
But
I've not seen Rings.
So I've seen them all. I saw Rings 2 in theater when it came out, and it's one of the most fun theater experiences I've ever had because it was one of the most unruly audiences, which is good for that kind of movie because it was bad.
It was bad, yeah. But she does say, "I'm not your fucking mommy,"
which was very fun.
Which is great.
And then Rings is bad because it was trying to like update this, which a lot of what works about this movie is sort of the analog nature of it. And when it's like, oh, it's a cursed video upload that you send to people's Wi-Fi, it just loses. This isn't fear.com.com, okay?
Yeah, it wishes.
I think
Rings wishes it was fear.com.
Rings does wish it was fear.com.com. Okay, so I'm very happy for you. Mazel tov for you.
The first time watching it, I was like, oh, I can watch anything now.
I think that may not be true.
It's not true, but I was feeling confident.
I think you've come such a long way.
Yeah.
Even just in this podcast, because you've watched stuff that is genuinely scary.
I'm very brave. Thank you.
Are.
Yeah. And we love to see that kind of character development on a podcast. You're growing, we're learning.
We'd love to see a girl boss get traumatized and
in new ways.
Adapt.
We really do. I mean, that's what happens in this very movie.
In almost every movie we watch on this
That's true.
podcast. Okay, so for those of you who have not seen The Ring, it sounds like all three of us think it's great. You should go see it. If you are truly just terrified of stuff, this is pretty scary, but it's, I think, manageable and honestly so dated with some of the horror concepts that I think it does neuter some of the scares a bit.
For sure.
Yeah, it's kind of become, rather than like a modern day set horror, it's become a true time capsule. Even from the opening scene, because it was that window of time where everyone had cordless home phones. And I'm like, that was a very like late 90s, early 2000s moment before cell phones became as ubiquitous as they did. And then VHS, like that was the last gasp.
It was the last gasp.
VHS.
And that's part of the movie. It's like DVDs were around at this point, but VHSs are also still around.
Yeah,
they're
like
just
you're probably the average family was more likely to still have their VCR than they were to have a DVD player.
Well, and that was back when people actually answered the ringing phones or had phones that rang. Because
my
phone's always on silent, and if your number is not saved, I am not answering. So
I think the only people I interact with in my life whose phone rings out loud is people over the age of like, I want to say over the age of like 60.
Yeah.
Like anyone under that age has it on silent.
I agree.
Because like I do Tai Chi with a bunch of extremely old people, and even just in an hour, it's like 3 people's full volume ringtones going off, and it's could be any of theirs, but I know it's not mine because my phone has been on silent for about 7 years, 10
Yeah.
years.
Oh,
10
I know,
plus
because
years.
these old people are the ones who go to the theater. And I don't think I've been to a musical or opera or play in like 10 years where some decrepit old person's phone didn't ring out loud after the announcement that's like, silence your phone. And I'm like,
They're talking to you.
well, yeah, and it's back to like, I'm the Quiet Place, like monsters, where I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I
Start
literally
screeching.
want to like rip that person apart. I saw Merrily We Roll Along on Broadway recently, and they were
Oh,
filming
for Bread
it.
Day.
Yeah, and they were filming it for a professional, like, filmed release.
And
So they
someone's phone went
they really
off.
stressed it. They were like, it is so important. We only get a certain number of nights to record this show. We have to, like, everything has to be pristine. Like, please, you have to turn off your phone. And it went off so loud. Like, in the middle of a quiet moment, I was like, my God, is nothing sacred?
No.
Yeah, it's because there is
I hate it
because there's
so
multiple.
much.
But you're right. There's multiple technology pieces to this, like Ghost. Because there's the VHS, the sort of black spine VHS tape, and then which is analog at that point. Because when they go to that cabin, it's like, yeah, we don't really get service out here, so DVDs don't work? Question mark. Don't worry about it. We just have VHS tapes. Still
Yeah.
cool. And then
Well, those cabins are also rotting and horrible, so
Yeah.
it's not surprising they don't have a DVD player.
yeah, they should just be like, yeah, we don't have that. And then the phone rings, and you get told 7 days after you watch your cursed video. I love that it's also just explained to you in the very opening scene.
Yes.
You
Me
watch
too.
this video, it's creepy. You get a phone call that says 7 days, and then 7 days later, and you get sort of haunted during that time. Not as bad as the Drag Me to Hell haunting, because that one is way
Right.
worse.
Oh, yeah.
This one's like mildly bad. I would say choking the hair thing was always the worst scene for me to watch.
Yep.
So still pass. I don't want it. But then after 7 days, Samara shows up and she kills you dead.
Yeah.
You're dead.
And
And you get the worst, creepiest, best spooky face.
One of the all-timer, like, such a famous scene, especially for people our age. I think, like, that image
The girl in
of the girl in the closet.
the closet is so good.
With
And it's so effective.
Yeah.
And Samara scares them to death, right? Like,
Yes,
it's
basically.
not. Yeah. So
Because it's like a heart attack.
Yeah.
Is all they can guess. Basically, like,
Sorry, I have a quote on here. Can I
Yes.
kind of clown on that a little bit? Because
Yes.
I think this movie is really good. Okay, like I will say it. Like we all are saying it, but like there's a lot going on in this movie. It has a very simple premise, but the characters are interesting and their motivations are interesting and the story is interesting. So, main character lady, Naomi Watts,
Rachel.
the girl who dies in the beginning is her niece. And at one point, they're at the funeral for this 16-year-old girl, and someone is like talking in the background, and they're like, kids don't have strokes unless they're on drugs. And then the mom's like, I spent 4 hours on the internet, and I couldn't find a single case of a 16-year-old's heart just stopping. And so I went on Google, guys. I have a list of ways that 16-year-olds can have their heart stop.
Oh.
Blood clots, sickle cell, aneurysm, heart malformation, hypertension, infection, hemophilia, migraine, cancer, high cholesterol, hormones, head trauma, and drugs. So there are many ways this girl could have died. I get it. Like
She didn't have that on her AOL that she got
she went
at
on
the grocery
Ask,
store.
She went on
Ask
Ask
Jeeves.
Jeeves.
Yeah.
Yes,
Typed it in.
she did.
And Ask Jeeves had no answers for her.
Also, she's a really slow reader. Let's not judge.
her 4 hours.
She
was-
read it was 3 articles. It just took her
the page
4 hours to
and the
read.
page is loaded so slowly
true.
back then. But it was just kind of funny to me where I'm like, look, this movie, it's not stupid, but there are characters in it where they say things and I'm like, okay, like the first times I've watched this, that never occurred to me, but it's because I was watching with sort of a fine tooth comb
Yes.
this time. Where I was like, 16-year-olds die all the time.
Also, she could have just been bullshitting. Maybe she was just like, I was traumatized and tired, so like I Googled for 4 hours. And it was,
Right,
like,
which
4
may have been like
minutes.
3 hours and 50 minutes of dissociating.
Yeah.
Oh,
in
like
front of
the
her
dad.
computer.
Yeah. He
The
was so
most
sad.
broken man.
He gets
has, like,
one line, and it's so.
Oh, I was so sad for that man because he just has the most like hollow look. And I'm like, he's not there anymore. Like, he's
No.
alive, but not really.
He's like, oh, hey, how are you?
And
they're
then just
like, oh,
turns
God.
back and like resumes staring off into space. And I'm like, ooh, he's not going to be okay.
So, my main note about this movie,
Mm.
and you guys can disagree with me,
Okay.
I think this is the meanest movie we've watched. This is a
Hmm.
mean movie. It's mean-spirited. It's a bad time for like everyone in this. It's just nasty.
But I think that's kind of true. And also because our lead character herself is pretty nasty. Like, she's a pretty, I mean, which I love. It works so perfectly.
I like
she
her
makes
character.
such a great character. But she's not some like sympathetic, like scrappy young heroine. She's just like an investigative journalist who's such an asshole and like doesn't parent her child at all.
Very self-involved.
Right. And like has like a sort of weird relationship with like her ex, her baby daddy. And she at one point she's projecting so much onto him because she meets his like assistant who's a pretty woman.
Also, you're not together anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he's allowed to date other people.
Yes. And I'm like, and I can see why you didn't work out because you seem awful.
She's like, he watched the tape, and it's like, this guy is so checked out of your life. Like, he does not know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, he should, but he's not there either because he is also self-involved.
Yeah.
Like,
But they like kind of rekindle
well,
by the end, but then
that's heartbreaking. I'm
it's
telling you, this movie is
extinguished, yeah.
so mean.
Well, and it's also concerns some parents who like want to murder their child. They go sleep in a barn and then one of them kills her. And then the whole town is happy because she talks to that doctor and the doctor's basically like, I'm not saying I'm glad that little girl's dead. I'm just saying everything has been better on the island since she mysteriously died.
Yeah, you don't want Brian Cox cast as your dad in a movie.
No, you sure
No.
don't. Yeah, so Naomi Watts, Brian Cox.
Adam
I was gonna say
Adam Brody.
Adam Brody.
Adam Brody
The
shows
jump
up for
scare.
one scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Kid Detective. There he is.
Yeah,
The guy from Bride and Prejudice. The boy, so her ex
yeah.
is Mr. Darcy from the Bollywood version of Pride and Prejudice called
Oh.
Bride and Prejudice.
I know what you're talking about.
So I
haven't seen
watched
it.
The Ring, and then immediately afterward, I watched Bride and Prejudice, which was a nice palate cleanser. Plus,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's because that guy's in it. I want to watch this. And then while I was watching Bride and Prejudice, I was like, this reminds me of a really good movie. And I just watched Pride and Prejudice after that. So it was,
What was the connection between those two?
I don't know, it had like good music.
Okay.
Well, I recognize the ex from Grey's Anatomy.
I recognized him from my dreams ever since I watched this movie because I was thirsting so hard
Really?
on this rewatch. I
Yeah.
was like, he's like my like early 2000s like dream man with this like shaggy hair
His
and
baggy
Yeah.
pants.
oh.
And-
Like
and
he's
he's
like, I
into
need to see
art.
your records, and this lady's like, no, and I think I turned to Sam and was like, imagine telling that man no.
And he has this like
like couldn't be me.
this big beautiful apartment he would never be able to have.
I was also
Right.
partially, I think, thirsting for the apartment.
Like,
'cause
were
I
they in
loved it.
Portland or Toronto
Yeah,
or
I
something?
think it's Portland.
I think you wanted that whole thing. You
I
wanted the
did.
apartment, you wanted him.
I wanted the like kind of contentious, like, will they, won't they?
Mm.
Because I like it when they like don't kiss. Because then it's just like the tension just continues.
I like that what we get with them at the end is like a little bit of a gentle sort of hand touching. It's not even a hand holding. It's like a hand touching.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, everything's going to be fine.
And it's decidedly not, ever. Also, I was going to say this, before we get too into it, this movie famously spawned a huge Hollywood trend of American remakes of Asian horror, specifically Japanese, but they remade some Korean and
J-horror.
Thai, yeah.
Yeah.
But what those movies did was basically slap a blue filter on it and just like rewrite the script to be worse and like not cast like prestige actors. And I'm like, this movie is like stacked like in front of and behind the camera with like Oscar winners
Yeah.
and like It has beautiful
It has
cinematography
style.
and also I guess it was filmed. It's not a color correction. That like kind of bluish green tint.
Really? Because I kept hearing like,
Right?
Yeah.
in my head. I was watching.
Very
Well, it was
Twilight.
shot on film, and it was like a filter, a custom filter that they like put in front of the lens. So
Oh,
it was
that's
like
fun.
always that color,
Blue tinted glasses.
basically. Yeah, so it just like looks fantastic. That cinematography is just with the like Pacific Northwest, and there's a lighthouse, and I don't know, it's just
The
gorgeous.
whole thing works. The performances are really good.
But yeah, but the other remakes lost sight of like this wasn't successful because it was a Japanese movie originally. It was successful because a lot of time and care and talent went into making it.
I think it's why, like, The Ring stands the test of time. And I have a feeling that when we watch The Grudge, which is the other
I'm
most...
nervous about it, but
Look, The Grudge is bad. Now, I really like... My suggestion is that we don't watch The Grudge. We watch Ju-On, which
I think I said something similar last night.
Okay.
Ju-On is good.
Yeah.
And it is genuinely scary. The Grudge, I mean, it has some beat for beat. I haven't even seen the new remake of it. I heard it was terrible.
Absolutely wretched.
Yeah.
So bad.
Why?
Also stacked with a very talented cast, but
Well, that's why I almost saw it.
I that's the thing. I couldn't even put my finger on it. It just wasn't it. It makes sense that The Ring is PG-13, but it has some pretty crazy stuff. It's not especially that graphic. Like a horse gets like churned, like keel hauled and churned up by a boat, and a man gets horrifically electrocuted in a bathtub, and there's like hits his head, so there's like blood everywhere as well. There's like the murder of a child on screen. Like this is a pretty heavy PG-13.
It is.
I think.
It is.
I like didn't take notes while watching because I was like, they're all just gonna be like, love this. This is amazing.
And that's,
love the shot.
That's
this
a lot of
acting
what,
is great.
That's a lot of what I have.
Yeah.
Is like, it's a lot of commentary on, like, I have entire sections just on like the tape itself, which, can we talk about the tape?
yeah.
That's the cursed videotape.
The cursed videotape. It's so funny because this movie spawned, like, I would say this movie is responsible for the Scary Movie franchise too. At least in some ways. Because wasn't Scary Movie 1 the one that makes fun of The Ring?
No, that was Scary Movie 3. Scary Movie 1 was Scream.
Oh, you're right, because Scary
Yeah.
Movie
And I know what you did last summer.
3 also
3
has
was-
signs.
Yes. 3 was the one with Leslie Nielsen.
So
That
this
was PG-13. and it
scratch
was,
that. I'm
yeah.
wrong, which I am often. But yes, let's talk about the tape. So you put in this VHS tape, and it. Do you think that music from it is like diegetic, or is that like, is it like the ambient noise? Are they hearing that?
I think so.
You think so? I think so too. It's just kind of like ambient weirds.
The whooshing? Yeah.
No. I just hadn't thought about it.
Oh yeah. I think it is.
I wonder if it's just because, okay, so the little girl who like made it after she died, she's kind of psychic, but her power, I think it's called Nensha.
Oh.
Or thoughtography.
Ooh.
I researched this when I should have been asleep.
Well, you used to be a paranormal investigator.
I did. Before I was a hair analyst.
Right.
People can imprint images upon surfaces with their mind. And that's her power. So that's like, at one point they're like, how did you make these drawings, Samar? And she's like, I didn't. I just thought about it and then they were there. And so even after death, she can still like project her thoughts. And so she projects the images onto the tape.
Oh,
And
I
that's how
like
she like makes it.
I like her powers.
Yeah, so, which is cool. And like, that's why her parents hated her, because she could like, she would just show them things because she could also put thoughts in your head and just like show you images. So I'm wondering if the sound is like an artifact of how she like imprints the images on the tape.
I like that.
She's an auteur filmmaker because this tape is real crazy.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I wanted to ask you guys, what is the creepiest scene in the tape for you?
For me, it is definitely the hook through the finger with the fingernail coming off.
Oh.
Hate it so much.
Excellent choice. That's terrible. Sam?
Oh.
I just keep seeing the woman brushing her hair
Oh.
and just keep thinking she's gonna look into my soul.
Yeah, she might.
Yeah.
I like the one where it's a bunch of maggots and then suddenly there are a bunch of writhing naked people on top of each other.
That's probably my other favorite. I love
like,
that.
ugh. It reminds me a lot of the sort of Willy Wonka, like when they go on the boat ride.
Oh, the boat ride.
And it's just like horrific images.
It's like a chicken being decapitated. And
just like, worms and eyeballs, and it's very similar. So, but it's fun because when you first watch it, you're like, oh, like what does any of this even mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize like half of it is very specifically her experiences.
Yes.
And then the other half is just like mean, fucked up shit that you know she was projecting into everybody's brains.
Yes.
Making her dad and the horse doctor lady and everybody just see like maggots and...
Yes. And I love that because I think it's sort of implied that like she's basically like some kind of demon.
She's evil.
She's evil and like to the core and always has been, because he's like, Brian Cox says, my wife was not supposed to have a child. And in the book, it's implied that like...
Jackal.
I mean, kind of. It's like her mom got pregnant after she like retrieved some like statue of this like mystical like god from like the sea.
I need to read this book because it sounds absolutely bonkers.
I mean, it is bonkers, so you actually might enjoy it. But so it's like, and I think the idea is it's like mom like was like had fertility issues, they couldn't conceive, but she like somehow made a deal with like an entity and just like got pregnant that way. Because Brian Cox keeps referring to her as like my wife's child, or like I don't have a daughter.
Yeah.
So I think it's not stated, and I like that it's not stated, but to me it implies that just like she was supernaturally conceived in some way, and she's just bad and wrong, and they're interviewing her, and he's like, the doctor's like, I know you don't want to hurt people, and she says, but I do, and I'm sorry, and it won't stop.
It's so
and
good.
It is so chilling.
She really is kind of like the best of the malevolent, like evil child archetype.
Yes.
Because she, more so than, I think like on your spectrum of kids in sort of haunted movies, she's the most evil,
Yes.
I think. And then like on the other side of the spectrum is like the Babadook kid, who's like actively trying to fight the monster.
Yes.
And they're great. And I like the full gamut.
Mm-hmm.
But she's, to skip ahead to the end, Naomi Watts, Rachel, is so up her own ass that she thinks that she solved it.
Yes.
By being like nice and like finally parenting for like one hot second. And then at any moment, this woman could have communicated with her little gay log cabin Republican child and said to him, hey, you seem to know what's happening here. Can you tell me? But she never does. Until the very end, she goes to him and she's like, don't worry, sweetie. You're going to be okay. And he's like, why do you say that?
She's like, I helped her.
And he's like, you're not supposed to help her. He looks at her like she is the dumbest bitch.
Well.
And you know what?
And he's right.
right. Yeah.
I really like the kid, too.
Me too. What I was going to say, this is probably one of the most effective versions of the, like, relatively normal, like, he's not a creepy, I mean, he's creepy, but he's not, like, malevolent. He's just like an adult in a child's body. But he's also making the creepy drawings. But they're really effective, too.
He's similar
It's
to
good.
the Sixth Sense kid, where it's like, this kid is having a bad time, and he's trying to process it, but his mom isn't really around.
Well, he's like her parent.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
He like irons her clothes.
Laid out her clothes.
Yeah.
Or steams them or something.
At one point, he ties his own tie for the funeral, and I'm like, who taught him to tie a tie? It was not his absentee father. It was not his mother who can't dress herself.
He probably...
It was not his female cousin he was close to, and they didn't have YouTube then. So I'm like, how does this kid know?
He probably walked to the library and like found like an old sort of like manners book or something.
I bet he did, and then he did the grocery shopping on his way home.
Yeah.
None of it feels like, I thought going back and watching this after having seen 2 billion movies with Samara ripoffs and so many movies with creepy little brown-haired kid with the bags under his eyes,
creepy drawings.
And creepy drawings and creepy imagery. Like, all of it still felt pretty fresh to me. Like, it all was very effective and, like, believable. Like, within, like, I wasn't taken out of the movie when Samara's talking. I wasn't taken out of the movie when the little boy was talking.
Yeah, well, it helped that they got
Good
good kid actors who I
Yeah.
think were well directed. So
Note to directors and casting agents, sometimes it's worth hiring not just good actors, but good child actors.
yes, not just the child actors who have the pushiest parents.
Or are related to someone on set.
Right,
or,
it is
or
worth it to
production.
get the most talented kid.
It is.
It does make a huge difference in your film.
Especially a movie like this that has two really important child characters that they easily could have not tried.
Yeah, especially with Samara, because she really only has that one scene, and it's the interview, and she's shot from pretty far away. Her delivery is so creepy when she says that line, like, but I do want to hurt people.
She does, and I believe her.
Me too.
She's not lying.
No,
She's not a liar.
I really feel the truth in that.
She's been very clear.
Samantha Darko, how dare
Right?
you? Lilo from Lilo and Stitch. Those are her two other big roles.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, even though I really liked this movie, I still had nightmares.
Oh, congratulations.
And I was shocked by what I had nightmares about because I thought it was going to be Samara.
Was it horses?
No, it was Brian Cox. It was the cabin and Brian Cox.
He's another
Not the house, the
malevolent
cabin.
creature.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and his scenes are actually, I think on a rewatch, since I know every beat, the most tension is in the scenes with him. There's one part where he's like, she pulls out the videotape. She's like, do you know what this is? And he's got a big old hook in his hand.
Yeah.
He's like, is that the only copy? And he is like about to murder her.
Yeah.
And then in the next scene, she breaks and enters, he whacks her in the head and then electrocutes himself in front of her. And it is really freaky, actually.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to ever have your back turned on that man.
No, I know. That's what I was thinking. And when Rachel breaks in and it's nighttime, I'm like, oh my God, he already was about to murder you during the day.
You don't
and then
go
he asked
back.
you to leave. I can't, like,
You don't.
yeah.
Well, she's pretty stupid.
Yeah.
And
She's
also-
smart in some ways, but she is stupid in other ways.
And also, I think it helps me that she is so desperate because she's like, if I don't figure this out in this amount of time, I will die and my child will die.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, she has to do it, and she has to do it, like, yesterday.
And when you're watching it, it lets you know the day's moving,
Yeah.
and they move so quickly in the beginning, and it's so nerve-wracking.
It is. And definitely by the time you get to, like, day 7, you're like, oh, fuck.
It's really intense.
Yes.
But clever.
It is. Well, do we want to take a little breaky poo?
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Spread the Poison. Feeling like shit? Low? Tormented by the cruelties of this vicious world? No problem. There's a cure. Spread that sickness from your heart to others through the simple act of making your problem their problems. Be mean to people in your life who care about you. Lash out. Throw their kindness back in their faces with harsh bitchiness. You suffer, so everyone else should too. Spread the poison. Spread the poison!
Hell yeah, brother.
That was a weird ad copy, but we got to read it when
Yeah.
it comes through.
I know, yeah. We don't write these, these just come from our sponsor.
Yeah, thank you to our sponsor for supporting us.
Yeah.
No offer code either. I think it's just free.
Wow. What a deal. All right. We'll see you after the break.
We're back. I hope you enjoyed your ad break. Spreading meanness? I don't remember exactly, but spreading awful things. I hope you enjoyed it.
Our sponsor won't be happy with what you just said, but I'll let it slide.
We'll always get another sponsor.
So true.
They're always calling us.
Our phones are blowing up, and yes, some of those calls are just 7 days.
But we would never know because we don't pick up the phone.
Never.
Exactly.
And I often don't check the voicemails.
No.
I do want one more thing about the technology, the analog technology of this, is I was also just like, so the scene where ex-husband, or he's not even a husband.
No, he's just
baby daddy.
baby daddy, yeah.
So yeah, when ex-baby daddy guy is getting got, which is such a creepy scene. It's so good. Probably the most famous scene from this entire movie is Samara climbing out. Would you say that as someone who had only like
I knew about that.
experienced the movie through the zeitgeist? She's climbing out of this like big like boob tube, and I was like, this would not have worked if it was like a flat screen.
No,
Like,
but it works so perfectly with that deep.
That dimension
Yeah.
of just this big, heavy sort of TV. Like, I'm just like imagining her like climbing out of like my giant flat screen and just like falling to the ground.
Right, or like, look out, she's coming out of your iPad.
She's like a tune, just like expanding out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that effect is so cool and well done. Her climbing out of the TV, and the way that like her color grading is still like the washed out.
Yeah.
Grayscale.
Yeah, sort of grayscale, and like she's kind of staticky and glitching.
And it works because she died from being in a well for 7 days. Spoiler.
Oh, and her skin
yes.
is so like mottled, and she's so waterlogged.
Because to say
and
she would
fucked
be
up.
extremely
Yeah.
like waterlogged, and it's not a good way to go.
No, none of the people in this movie who die went out in a good way, I feel. They all had a bad time.
I think the horse was at least no, that was pretty bad.
And it was so
Yeah.
freaked out before it died.
Yeah, I was really freaked out. It was having a bad time.
Naomi Watts needed to leave it alone.
I know. But she wanted to pet the horsey.
She really did.
This is not a woman who thinks 2 steps ahead about the consequences of her actions.
Yeah.
Oh no. Although I do love her editor comes up to her at her
It's
desk.
like,
and
you're
he's
fired.
And she's like, no, I'm not. And she didn't even look at him. She's like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm working on too good a story. And then she literally shoos him away.
Girl boss.
I think that's just how she operates. She's so confident that you can't always tell how stupid she is, even though she's selectively very smart. But yeah, I love that.
But she has a lot of okay, so what I have here is that she just has like way more personality than most characters in these kinds of movies.
Definitely.
What we were saying during the ad break that Brett was bringing up, and we were kind of agreeing on it, is that this is like a really great, star-studded, powerful, like Oscar-studded production that nowadays we would call like elevated horror, wrapped in the veneer of just blockbuster, like October PG-13 like type movie.
What a brilliant observation
Thanks.
that I made.
It's but it's so true because like rewatching this, I didn't expect it to be this good upon further scrutiny. And it really is. Like, I mean, it's maybe not perfect, but there's not a lot wrong with it. And I think the way that it's stylized and of its time works really well because it really is from this time period where we were transitioning technologies. Like, I clocked that she goes and is looking at like old newspaper clippings.
Yes.
You don't see that shit anymore.
I mentioned that. I was like, I love that she's in the library looking
did-
for a book on lighthouses. She does do like a Google search or whatever later. But I'm like, you wouldn't have a library scene now.
No,
It'd
they
all
don't.
be just
They'd go on some-
Googling. She'd ask Siri.
It wouldn't be like even Google. It would be called like Goggle or something. So
Yeah.
if it wasn't something they'd have to pay to use.
Ask Jeeves.
I would have actually liked if she went to Ask Jeeves. It was like, creepy lighthouse nearby.
I was so impressed she found that lighthouse.
Yeah, it was great that the book had that lighthouse from the same angle
Yeah.
that it was depicted in the tape, even though it wasn't on the tape because it was past. People won't have any idea what this is, but it was out of like the realm of like the tracking on the VHS. So it was part of the image that was on the tape, but it wasn't displayed on the screen, and that's why she needed that big old machine to like stretch it out to see to the very edge of the frame.
Not something I would have noticed.
Yeah, no,
Personally.
certainly not. But she does.
She noticed it. She said enhanced. No, she like grabs it and like almost breaks it.
It's actually really funny because first she tries to do it at her baby daddy's place
And
with
he's
his
like,
equipment.
stop.
And then it like shocks both of them. And she gives him a look like, what'd you do? I'm like, what did he do? Ma'am.
anything.
Right. You're like breaking his equipment and electrocuting
He's doing
both
the
of you.
same thing he always does, which is nothing.
Yeah.
Except when he finally believes that he is also going to die, he steps it up a bit.
Actually, he really does, because he is like there in the house when Brian Cox kills himself, and he's very present from then on.
He goes and finds some records and some very funny sort of charming scenes where he's like, trying to be sneaky and slick, and he's doing an okay job.
He actually does it pretty well. It's so funny because he's like, oh, like, you can let me into the records room. I've been up there. And you think he's like fucked up because the guy's like, nice try, buddy. The records are in the basement. But like, he was actually just fishing for where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't actually trying to gain access that way.
Or where he's like pretending to be Brian Cox's character, and the security guy is like, oh, you look pretty young, and he's like thanks.
Diet and exercise.
Diet and exercise. And then it's like, who's the last person that checked this out? He's like, it was you. Like, knowing full well that this guy's so full of shit. He just doesn't get paid enough to care.
Yes, I did love that.
There's a lot of really good stuff in this. Like, I wouldn't say it's a particularly funny movie, but there's some good moments in it that are good sort of levity moments that you need. And personality moments.
I was going to say, it's like even the most minor characters kind of feel like people, just like they feel like they have actual personalities that come across without it being overly expository.
Yeah.
I'm like the guy who rents out the cabins.
The shitty burnout teenagers whose friends have all died.
Yeah. But they all feel very real and not generic.
Even the two teenage girls in the beginning, it's like, yes, they're the cold open, like one of them's a cold open sacrifice, but then you just see like she was the best friend of this like lonely 8-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Like she had these parents that loved her and are devastated. Like,
yeah, and her big dark secret was that she had a secret boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I think the movie opens so well because, well, I'm like, both of these girls are psychopaths, these slumber party girls, because the way they like tell their scary stories and like to try to fake each other.
That's
out
how
and
you
scare
gotta
each other.
do it.
Yeah. But I'm like, man, these girls are committed. And then Amber
what I got.
Tamblin's performance as the first victim, like, we, the audience, are so primed to be scared because we see how scared she is.
Yeah.
She is like crapping her pants, terrified.
Yeah, and she is super freaked out. And then she's
right to be.
Yeah, she has a spooky face that we see for just a brief moment. I went back and paused it because I can do that now on streaming. I watched this on Tubi. Oh, no. I watched it on, Pluto TV. Where
I think I did too.
The ads were like so depressing. Because like I don't really encounter that many ads like this. Like I see a lot of ads on like social media and I just like skip them. But the ads for this, you can't really skip them. And they were like, the one I kept getting was one that was telling me to sell my plasma so I could graduate college. It was like, it was like, sell your plasma. And it's like a guy with his graduation cap on. And my husband was like, literally, that's what I did. Like, he sold his plasma in college to like pay for his student loan interest.
I know a lot of people who did that at my college.
I was like, man, this country fucking sucks.
Yep.
Terrible.
It does.
Watch if you want to see just how depressing our world is. Watch something on Pluto TV or Roku, like one of the ones where they get like the really like bottom of the barrel ads.
Yeah, that's literally why I pulled out my DVD, even though it is like the ends are cropped off because it's not widescreen, it's full screen. Back when that was a thing, which wouldn't be my preference, but I saw that it was only on Pluto TV with ads, and I was like, I'm not doing that.
Yep, that's what I did, and it didn't help the ambiance.
Well, that was another thing. I was like, I want the Ring experience. I want to be immersed in it.
Well,
and
during...
Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to do something else.
Oh, I was going to do something else too. I was going to segue to the wonderful score by Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Who I'm not always the biggest fan of because he can be a little bombastic.
A little too loud sometimes.
Yes. But he does a great job on this, and it's like a delicate, creepy little melody, and it just adds, like, between that and the cinematography, it's just such a specific mood, and I just love it. And I'm like, I could live in this melancholy blue-gray world. Again, if I was with that guy and could live in that apartment.
I'm just thinking about if this was scored by Danny Elfman.
Oh, we can but dream.
The whole ambiance is so I mean, this is such a well-crafted movie.
Mhm.
Like, throughout, you're feeling tension, you're feeling the weight of the actual consequences here. You like the little kid. You don't want him to die.
Yeah.
You don't love this woman, but you do want her. You could see that she's finally, by the end of the movie, she's like becoming a mom. She's sort of like an absent, neglectful mom. And then she's encountering a girl who was killed by her parents, and they are just like the most abusive. I mean, their daughter dies being like they think they kill her, and then she's just in a well.
Yeah.
Buried under the floorboards.
She slept in a barn.
Right, that's after they made her sleep in a barn up the tallest ladder in the world. What do you need all that vertical space in a barn for?
You gotta put your haunted child up there.
God.
You do.
You gotta put your haunted kid
She
up
had a
there.
TV.
And so it like shows Rachel that like, hey, you know, you're not irredeemable. Like your son of any kid could forgive you. He's so ready to.
Yes.
Despite it all, he still likes you.
Mhm.
He wants you to like him back. You know, you can turn this around. And then baby daddy guy by the end is also like, sure, the best that guy could ever be is like the dad who's like, I'm babysitting the kids today. Like, that's the best he could do.
but
But when the other dad in this movie is Brian Cox or dissociated other dad,
Right.
it's like, okay, like the bar is so low in this movie for parents. This is not like a feel-good parenting movie.
No.
This movie imbues the most ordinary objects with such dread and menace. I've never been scared of a ladder before or since.
I was gonna say, should we list the objects?
A fly.
Yeah.
Flies are annoying, but I'm not normally scared of them. But I'm scared of them in this movie.
Big boob tube TVs,
Mirrors. The circular mirror.
phones, the hairbrush.
Rings.
Well, yeah. Creepy kid drawings.
Right. A beautiful tree.
Horses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, horses.
It's a malevolent sort of pallor over everything.
Her shadow still looms large on that island.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is kind of like a mean... Everyone's a little harsh and mean in this movie.
Yeah, but also they did have a demon living on the island who killed a bunch of horses.
And loved it.
And loved it.
But part of me thinks that she's also just sort of a product of the environment.
I'm sure it didn't help.
It's like a little chicken and egg, I think. Like, I think she was primed to be bad, but then she was raised, you know, in such a harsh world. I don't know.
The little girl is standing by a well. Her mom comes up and just throws her down a well. And I can't imagine that feels good.
No, probably not.
And I also love that, much like this week's sponsor, Spread the Poison, that's what Samara's goal is.
Yeah.
The only reason she will spare someone from the curse is if they help to spread it to more people. Because that's her ultimate goal. She just hates everyone and wants them all to suffer and die.
You only get a pass if you negotiate with the terrorist in this one.
Like you have to help her or she's gonna kill you.
It's not finding her body and saying it's okay and
She
then
was-
letting it float back down.
I felt like that was her just like fucking with her.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, I think that what she wanted was to make her feel like she helped and then take her kid and baby daddy and kill them both.
Yes. And she's playing into that because she shows Rachel her death scene. So Rachel gets to be like, oh, this poor girl, like she suffered down here and her
And she's showing
mom killed
herself in this sort of angelic
Right.
sort of glow.
But it's just to give Rachel that false sense of catharsis before she just absolutely wrecks her.
Yeah, unreliable narrator moment from Samara. There's that great scene in the very end where she has figured out why she was spared, and she wants to save her son. And she is like making him make all these copies. Like he looks at her and he's like, "What about the people who see this?" And she's like, "Don't worry your pretty little mind about that." So, do you think that she is fully spared? Or, oh, is this a question you've thought about?
Yeah, I raised a finger.
So do you think she's really spared, or do you think it's sort of like It Follows, where you get passed over, but it'll come back for you unless you keep, spoiler, it's almost like you get put into a list.
Yeah, there's a chain.
There's a
Ooh.
chain.
People.
It's the chain mail, the chain letter.
Yeah, like you can pass on this
You could pass it on, but once that person gets got, it comes back for you. So you want to like really you want it like not only the person you give it to, like you want them to spread it. Because you want the
you want to be as far away from the end of the chain as possible.
You want a lot of buffer. So do you think, because at the end they are making a lot of copies, do you think, because really he would only need to make one copy and make sure one person watches it. Unless
I have my
it's more
answer.
safe. What do you guys think?
Because last night I decided it's an annual subscription, so you have to re-up. So you have to continue, like, she's good for a year.
Why a year?
I don't know. I decided it was an annual subscription, so, you can't just stop. Like, she showed, her baby daddy. She's going to help her kid show someone.
She can't use her rocket money to unsubscribe?
No.
I actually think that, like, it is kind of done. Like, you're not in her direct line of fire anymore, but she's still probably going to fuck with you sometimes and, like, put nasty shit in your head, but you're not going to be killed by her unless you were to, like, if you received a copy and watched the tape again, it would happen again, but you know how to spread it.
You can't unsubscribe to the emails.
Yes, but
you've paid your dues.
But those emails are like your nose starts bleeding.
Yeah, exactly.
And you cough up a fly and
one of the most upsetting scenes where she pulls
that's
what is
the
it?
worst.
The electrode or what? I'm not sure what it is.
It's like a bunch of hair with like
but
an
it's got
electrode at the end.
Yeah. And it just like
she's
she's
just
on the phone with her
phone.
sister and she just starts choking and she pulls this like hair string
that fucked me up the
that's
most.
all
That's
the way
a
like down her
nightmare.
throat and she's just like choking and gagging. And
She
it
just
is
has to deal
so
with that all the
disgusting and
time.
horrible. Oh.
She's like, ugh, Samara.
She's got just like a box of them.
There's a
That's
box.
her like subscription.
A box filled with dead flies.
Yes.
A box filled with just like hair with like random electronic shit.
Yes.
Oh, I killed another horse today. It's like 3 a year.
Yeah, you gotta stay away from horses, if nothing else.
Yeah, if you have that haunt on you, and it's like, she keeps having to deal with the son, goes to school and has like burn handprints, and you have to come up with excuses because CPS keeps visiting.
Yes, that's what I think. I don't know, Mel, what do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably she's safe, but she's trying to get someone to watch it as quickly as possible. And that's why she makes so many. And she's not thinking about how much misery she'll be spreading by making that many fucking copies. I think she's like, no longer my problem.
Yeah, I think she knows, but like she's doing her best to totally put it out of her mind and never think about it.
Can I say what I think is the most fucked up moment?
Please.
Of Rachel tomfoolery in this.
And there's plenty of it.
This is the one where I was like almost shouting at my screen, where I was like, you selfish bitch. When she rushes to the apartment, finds baby daddy with his death mask on, she leaves traumatized, and then she sees his girlfriend going up the elevator, and she does not say a damn thing to that woman. Stop her from going up the elevator. You say, you don't want to go up there. He's dead. I'm about to call the police. Don't go up there. You don't want to see that. But no, she lets her. Like, I have luckily not stumbled across a dead body before. I can't imagine it's a great experience, especially if it's your boyfriend and he's got that face on him. So mean and selfish of her. I know she's like shocked and traumatized, but she should have stopped that lady.
When it's like, you don't even have to stop walking. You can literally just shout to her.
You can just run up to her and grab her and be like, don't go up there. You'll find a dead body.
Yes.
It's terrible. He had a heart attack. Or you just go, ah, and you just start shouting in her face. And you act all crazy.
Anything would be better than
just quietly standing there crying. Because you could see she's thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then she just lets her go. And it's like...
Because she was, like, jealous of her.
I think so. I think she was just like, fuck this bitch.
Yeah.
Let her find him dead. It's just, ugh, Rachel.
You're right. That is really bad.
I was so mad at her. Like, ugh. Be a better person, Rachel.
I don't know
in
if
this
she can.
world, she's not the worst, but it's because the bar is, like, literally in a well.
It's down at the bottom of the well.
It's at the bottom of the well.
With a corpse and some fingernails. Hated that. Hated the fingernails, like, embedded in the side of the well where she tried to, like, climb out. Very upsetting to me.
Oh, yeah. That's always horrible.
Oh, and I hate fingernail stuff.
I always hate it. Teeth and fingernails, I just
Yeah.
can't. I cannot fuck with that.
And defensive wounds. I don't know if that makes sense, but, like...
When someone's knife attacking on
Yes,
the arm.
and it, like, or, like, gets your hand or something because you're trying to, like, shield yourself.
Ugh.
That just, like, fucks me up for some reason. More
Because
so
it's
than
horrible?
just, like, a stab wound to, like, the chest or something.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very visceral.
Yeah, it is. It just makes it feel more real. There was a deleted scene.
Oh.
That was the very end that they...
It didn't make it onto my Pluto TV version.
Huh. Weird. Because I didn't clock her making multiple tapes. I thought she just made one. But at the end, she and Aiden go to, like, a Blockbuster and just leave the tape, like an unmarked tape, just, like, on the shelf for just, like, whoever to stumble across it. And it kind of bookends with the tape just, like, being on the shelf at the cabin. I see why they cut it. It certainly isn't necessary. But I did think it was interesting that was there are worse. I mean, and that way you can have a clearer conscience because you don't have to see the person. Because I think the idea is, like, you can't just show someone. You have to make a copy. And then someone has to watch the copy at some point.
Do you think that someone has to... So you think that the kid, once he hits copy, he's okay?
Yes.
Like, it doesn't...
I'm not
someone
100%, but yes, that is
you
what I
can't.
think.
You can't make it... I think this is one where definitely the intention matters, because Samara's watching. So it's
Yeah.
like, you can't just make a copy and then put it in a drawer, like at the bottom of a drawer in your house.
Yes, right.
You have to go put it somewhere that someone will find it.
Right.
I think that's true.
Okay, yeah, that was my take.
I like horror movies where there's sort of like rules to it, and they kind of make sense. In this one, they're not really explained, but you can extrapolate. Like, you figure out, oh, I made a copy. That's what she wants. And you're not supposed to help her, but if you want to survive, you have to help her. And no, it's not holding her and saying, like, I'm your mommy now,
Right,
or
that's
whatever.
not the help she wants.
That's the help that she needed before she died. I like it. I hate it, but I like it.
Me too.
I would have liked that scene. And I feel
Yeah.
like I've seen that scene before. So
It's pretty good, and it's very short.
At
so
some point,
they-
I must have
yeah.
seen that director's cut because it seems familiar to me.
Well, and apparently, there was a whole subplot that was cut out from this movie that has never seen the light of day. I think the scenes were filmed, but you
What is
can't
it?
find
Do you
them.
know?
There was, like, someone playing, like,
Smallpox?
a murderer.
Oh.
No. I think it was probably maybe for a story she was working on for the newspaper or something. But it's like a murderer guy. And in that version, she gives the tape to him at the end.
Oh.
So she, like, kills a murderer.
Meh.
Right.
I think it's better.
I think it's much better that they... I mean...
I think it's
I've
better that
seen
she
it, but-
that she theoretically, because that's the vibe I get because they are pressing copy. There's a bunch of them. I do remember. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but like I've always been under the impression they're making a lot of copies, like at least like a few. And I just imagined, yeah, that they're sticking them in places where people would say, "Oh, look at this! What is this video?"
Right, which is also cool and ties in with the marketing for this movie, because that's what the marketing team did. They literally left VHS copies of the video around, just like on people's car windshields and stuff. And with no explanation, it wasn't like
Bring
The
back-
Ring, only in theaters.
Y'all bring back guerrilla marketing in that way.
I mean, can you imagine how freaked out you'd be?
Yes.
I
Me
would die
too.
instantly.
And
not
there's
in some
no
days.
explanation, and like, people probably, you're not even on the internet like talking about it. You're just like, oh my god, that's the most fucked up thing I've ever seen. And who gave this to me?
I love a creepypasta, and this has creepypasta vibes.
It does.
Or that sort of, yeah, like that scary stories you tell your friend. Like, I just think it's so polished.
Mhm.
It's so good. Also, the dialogue, we've mentioned it before, but like the way people talk in this, they're all so like Rachel's so mean and bitchy. One of my favorite lines is, I think it's when she's talking to the doctor lady. And the doctor lady says something to her and she goes, wait, I have it in here.
Yes, I know what you're talking
No
about.
offense, but what the hell does that mean?
Yes. And I'm like, this is the most abrasive person. And I somehow love it.
Well, it's so different than I think, like, a lot of the time, movies, like horror movies especially, they really like to punish any character that is not the purest, like, most virginal, like, female character. This woman had a child out of wedlock that she is barely parenting at all. She sometimes picks him up from school. You can tell she's picking him up late a lot.
Right.
She's cursing in front of him. She's wearing very 2002 clothes, which I think is a sin. She's
I agree.
Her outfits in this are so great. She's like, you know, she's mean, she's cocky. She manipulates people and lies to them to get what she wants. Like throughout it, she's just like lying.
She's really good at it.
She's so like effortless about that. But she doesn't talk to her kid. She just and still she's your heroine of this movie.
And I think that highlights to me that one of the most important things for a protagonist is not to be likable, but it is to be determined. That's what you really need in at least a protagonist where like you actively have to like solve a mystery or like you have to achieve this goal.
Yeah.
It's like, does that protagonist have the grit to do it or not?
And I like the ex-boyfriend character too. Like I think he doesn't believe her until he sees like he's very dismissive. And then when he finally sees the evidence for it, he's like, I believe you. Like, let me help.
Oh, well, it starts which we didn't talk about the blurry faces.
Oh, yeah.
But that actually really freaks me out.
It's so scary.
freaky.
Yeah, it's like, because there are photos of the teens from the beginning, like at the cabin before they watched the tape and after. And every photo taken of them after, their faces are so blurry and distorted, which is sort of reminiscent of what their faces eventually look like when they're scared to death by Samara. And like, people will just develop a compulsion to like scratch out faces of like on photos. Like her niece's like scrapbook is just like all the faces are crossed out. At one point Rachel is like taking notes while not looking and then she looks over and she's like scribbled out
scratched
like, her
out
own
like
face or
yeah,
something.
she scratched out the face of the mom in the
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
I think it was like a picture.
I think you're right.
Or at least that's what I thought it was.
Wasn't a face scratch out on one of the boys' drawings too?
Yes.
Well, because he has the disease too.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be his face that's like scratched out.
Yeah, the faces are all
it doesn't matter
distorted.
where it
That
is.
freaks me out. I don't know why. Just like
It's freaky.
I
ugh.
like the scene where the guy's buying cigarettes
Yeah.
from the grocery store and she's like, "You're gonna die," but she needs her cigarettes, and it's just sort of this like whatever moment. But then you see him look up into the mirror.
It's the security.
It's the security
footage,
mirrors
I think.
that are convex. Yes, convex is when it's out. I'm right.
I trust you.
I'm right. Well, concave is when it's in.
No, you're right about that.
And convex is out.
I just thought it was a TV monitor from the security camera.
No,
but
I thought it was a mirror. Maybe you're right. You know what? Maybe
I don't remember.
I
don't
don't
remember.
really know.
Don't write in. I don't care. But I am right about convex being.
But
outward.
they, regardless of what
It's
it is,
distorted.
it's just, his face is distorted, and obviously it follows him as he moves, and her face, the cashier, is not, and he's freaked out, and she's kind of freaked out too because she clocks it, and she's just like,
she's like, that's weird.
yeah, and that's I think when he starts to be like, oh, maybe there is something to this because that's something you don't see every day, but you see it for 7 days.
Oh God.
But there's something very creepy about like having pictures developed and there being something like wrong with them.
Yes.
You know, like, and again, like we are old enough to have had to get our pictures developed. And it's not like now where you just take a picture and you go look at it. It's like you take the pictures and then you just sort of like hope
Yeah.
Yeah.
that they turn out okay. And there's
you gotta
always
take him to
like
the pharmacy or whatever, and
you take
wait for
them to the 1 hour photo where
Robin Williams
Robin
is.
Williams is. Oh, what a good movie.
There's a Robin Williams movie called 1 Hour Photo.
Okay.
So yeah, just so many things that are imbued with such creepiness and dread.
This is a creepy movie.
It is. That's the thing. It's less overtly scary outside of a few moments, but it is so creepy. And the idea of this happening to you is so horrific.
Yeah.
And that's just a general you. Like,
And
the idea of
it's
it happening to me
essentially
is
random.
Yes.
It's like essentially you just get like, it's like a drive-by Samara.
Yes,
You
it
know,
is.
you just like, you go to a cabin and you're like, what's this tape? I mean, there have been times where my husband and I have gone to like, you know, like little Airbnb cabins in the middle of nowhere, and they have no internet access, but they just have like a big bag filled with DVDs, and you just throw one in, and you hope it's Air Force One, but it could have just been The Ring.
And I do really love that. I do love the random nature of like, kind of happen to anyone. Like, and it's in the Pacific Northwest for now, but who knows where it could go from here.
It's a poison that spreads. I mean, that's what's interesting about you saying that the book, it's like a smallpox thing. Because I think there is something, and the horses are sick. Like there's a disease aspect to this. Like there's a sickness. It's a brain sickness, but it's like a horrible sort of like infection that started in this little girl and started spreading out from the island into the mainland, and presumably from there it's just going to continue. People are going to keep showing each other the tape, making copies of the tape, and then we actually know what happens in the movie Rings. There's like a college professor who digitizes it. And then Samara is in the inner tubes where she belongs. Like
Get out of there.
She's like Lawnmower Man.
He shouldn't be in there either, quite frankly. I love the horse aspect, which I think is that anything in the Japanese version?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I've seen the Ringu, I think like once, and I don't remember that being a big part of it. I just remember it being like similar, but not as exciting. Like I've always sort of gravitated towards, like I rewatched Ju-on a lot. Like that's the one I really like out of the sort of early 2000s J horror. But I don't even really remember Ringu.
Okay, yeah, because I was just curious.
I remember Samara, and she's basically the same. She's not like from that book you read.
Right, she's not a grown woman who's intersex and
unclear. It does not
smallpox.
seem
Oh, which also when she contracts smallpox, she is at a tuberculosis sanatorium visiting her father who has tuberculosis, which he got from meditating under a waterfall to try to develop his own psychic powers after his wife was shamed in public and then she killed herself because she didn't do a psychic demonstration.
I'm putting this shit on my Goodreads as soon as possible.
Go for it.
I cannot wait to see if there is an audiobook version of this that I can listen to.
I'm spreading this poison as well.
I'm
taking full advantage of our sponsor.
I think they were smart to simplify a little bit.
I agree.
Okay, so what do we loathe?
Not a thing. I love this movie. All the aspects come together so beautifully for me. It may not be perfect, but in my eyes, it's perfect. It's that kind of movie where I'm just like,
I can't think of anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
Like even the stuff that feels really dated, as you said, it's sort of just like time capsule. Like it works. Like just like it doesn't work when they try to take this same idea and make it into digital whatever. Like as much as that didn't work, of its time, you know what, guys? The 2000s, they were really mean.
They were. We talked about that last night as well, Sam. We're talking about just tabloid culture and the fat shaming, and everyone was dropping R slurs and F slurs, and everything was gay, and everyone was fat.
Yeah, 2002.
It was really mean.
It was not a good time to be like 12. I'll tell you that. It was hard. And I can't imagine it was a good time to be anything.
No, I don't think so.
Specifically Muslim.
Yeah.
It's 2002. But this is a white movie.
Yes.
It is very white. You know what?
It's
very white.
Certainly is. Wow, yeah.
Any loathe?
I did not loathe anything. But one little snippet is both times I watched it, I did get a jump scare from animals in my life. The first time I was not patiently, but I was watching the movie and it was dark because we did mood lighting. And then all of a sudden my bedroom door starts opening because little bitch Roz needed to go to bed. So scared the shit out of me. And then the second time at Brett's and his lovely little rat Redacted jumped on me.
She didn't sign the consent form. We can talk about Lydia. We can't say Redacted.
Okay.
Right. Jumped on me from I swear it was across the universe. Just the biggest, largest leap of her life. Oh,
Biggest one I've ever seen her do.
Their life.
Oh, sure.
We know she's a
Yeah, we can say she.
Okay. Biggest jump of her life onto me. During a tense scene.
Yeah.
And I think I screamed.
Came out of nowhere. You did.
But I didn't
probably would have
load
screamed
anything.
too, because it was kind of shocking.
I didn't even load that. It was really funny.
Rat attack.
I felt loved. But yeah,
Yes.
I didn't load anything. So is it gay? How gay? Tell me.
So the movie's not gay at all, but I was having a lot of gay thoughts about Martin Henderson. So I'm
Yeah.
going to say, for me, it was at least 3 smallpoxes out of 5.
I think that little boy was gay. He was very sort of
The little fancy boy.
Yeah, he's a little fancy boy. He's fussy.
He's mummy's fancy boy.
He's mummy's fancy boy. Well, he's really his
I can
own.
relate.
He's his own fancy boy. So I'll give it 1 fancy boy.
All right.
I'll say 1 out of however many copies of the VHS.
1
Yeah.
to 4. We're not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leave a comment down below.
Put it under all your other comments you've made.
Yeah.
It's called a call to action, okay? Our marketing chair told us to do it.
Yes.
Our CMO.
We take these things very seriously.
Like and subscribe.
yeah.
That being said, I guess I'll do it this time. Well, I'll try. I always get this wrong. Hey, you should not only like and subscribe, you should spread this podcast to people you know.
Yeah, this sickness of listening to us sickos.
Yes.
And also Samantha.
Everybody except Samantha has seen this movie. Well, now she has. So tell someone, hey, remember The Ring? Do you want to hear who's gay in it? Y'all have to listen to this podcast to find out. So yeah, tell people about this podcast. You can send them our Instagram, which is @queerandloathingpod. You can send us an email if you want. Some of you do that. I always enjoy it. We don't usually respond, but we're reading it. And by we, it's the royal we. It's me. I read them even though I'm not technically the one who's supposed to do that, but I can't stop myself.
But shame on that person who isn't reading them, who's supposed
Yeah,
to.
who could that be?
We'll never know.
That is queerandloathingpod@gmail.com. I have a little link tree set up in our Instagram, so you can send people that link so they can find the podcast on whatever service they like. We're on pretty much all the services that I know of. You could follow us on YouTube. Just look it up. We'll pop up.
We sure will. We're right there.
We're right there. And yeah, that's about it.
Sounds good. Yeah, and go watch The Ring, because it's so
I
good.
think you should, and it's the right season for it. Wait for it to be a rainy day
Yes.
and watch it at night. Cuddle up with some blankets and have a rat jump at your face.
Yeah. And I told people before this, a few people that I was going to watch it that I knew were also scaredies, and they were like, I can't believe it. So to those people, you
did
should
it.
watch it.
Yeah.
I did it, and it was not even close to the scariest movie I've seen this year.
Yeah.
So it was just a good movie.
Hell yeah. All right. Well.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Well, until next time,
I'm queer.
I'm Loathing.
And I'm Samara.
Oh!